you could fall in love with handwriting, you would fall in love with these letters. Clapton has got absolutely beautiful handwriting.
From stadium anthems to chart-topping classics, Propstore's Music Live Auction takes centre stage this spring.
This is where the stories roll. The Chronicles of Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, theys and thems, if there's one thing that can unite us all as humans, it's a love to be entertained. But what if I told you that you can own a piece of that entertainment? Well, there's one place that can help you make your dream come true, whether it be music, film, or TV. The Propstore has sold a mind-blowing number of items, and now you can join the fun. So here to talk all about the current music memorabilia auction coming from London and so much more, we welcome the consignments consultant for music and posters. What a fucking job title. Mr. Mark Hochman, as we bring you the Chronicles of Propstore UK.
Oh,
What an introduction.
yeah.
What a job title.
Go with that.
Yeah, that is a cool job title, by the way.
Right.
Well, it's slightly different. It's consignment specialist, head of music and posters, but we're not splitting hairs.
No, exactly. We'll stick with that. That's fine.
Stick with what you got. You can.
Yeah.
I took it off the website. Blame the person on the website.
It's a bone of contention, should we say?
Fair enough.
For off air.
Mark, before we really dive in to everything that you do and the prop store itself, how's your personal Tuesday been?
With any auction, as soon as we announce, you can never prepare yourself for the constant barrage of questions, inquiries, press, media, and also at the same time prepping for the next magnificent auction, which in reality is October, but I have to have it locked by July, simply because we do the full printed catalogue. It's researching its provenance, it's authenticating a lot of the items. Well, not a lot, all of the items. So it's very, very full on, but I love it. I really, really enjoy what I do. You get to see some fantastic things. For me, not just the music, but the poster side of things, some of the movie memorabilia. So, yeah, it's some days are harder than others. I mean, today was hard because we'd just had a nice long 4-day weekend. I did work from home, but it was, it was a normal Tuesday.
Like it. So what we like to do with these things is take it right back to the beginning, back to when you were first growing up, a young Master Hochman, you could say. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I suppose the weird thing was, I always saw myself doing something in films or TV or music. But if I'm absolutely honest, I'm tone deaf. I've got no music bone at all in my body. My singing voice is awful, like strange, and yet I ended up doing. I just had this love of music. I mean, and film. I was actually offered a job when I was at school. I was very artistic in terms of a modelling bench, shall we say, and I was actually offered a job I used to do a lot of work with clay and plaster and other mixed media, and actually got offered a job doing Alien at the studios, which was near us, and I had to turn it down because I was doing my exams. So that's one of those sliding door moments that you think, oh, whatever. And my mum, bless her, was involved with the movies. She was a hairstylist, and it was, I think that's where I got my thing, that I always wanted to do something in with music or film. And as it was, I ran my own removals company for 35 years. So actually totally unrelated. But it was, I always collected, always had this love of memorabilia. And I was lucky enough in 2011 to turn it into a full time.
So I was going to say you've got a background like really prominent in movie posters, which you've mentioned. So what was it about movie posters that just grabbed you in?
It was, one of the things. It was, as I say, I had my own removal company, which at the time meant quite a bit of excess of cash. So different to now, and I just put all my disposable income into comics because I loved American comics, Marvel, DC, Batman. That they were my thing, and I had one of the best and biggest comic collections in the UK. Met up with a guy used to run Stateside Comics called Duncan McAlpine. Got involved in a bit with the comic book price guide, and where I was buying in comic collections, it led to, oh well, I've got these action figures, I've got these posters, and it sort of grew until I realised one day that I just had a garage full of posters and movie tat that I didn't really know what to do with. So I actually don't let this athletic figure fool you. I was actually quite a decent tennis player, and I ruptured my Achilles tendon.
Oh,
And this is at the dawn of websites. So a friend of mine who'd just done a crash course in design your own websites said, I'll tell you what, why don't I design you a website? And I said, yeah, all right. He said, to make it easy, I'll do posters because they're flat and you can take just a single picture of them. And that's where it started, around about 2010, in terms of getting into the posters. And it started with that website because I ruptured my Achilles tendon. So that was it, really. And I made quite a good name for myself with that. I've done TV and bits and pieces with the posters. And then, one thing led to another. I started at Propstore just before COVID, so about 2020, just a bit now, 2019. And then went there as their poster guy. And that developed into music because they're always looking to expand and to get into other memorabilia. And as part of the poster side of things, I had a client who also had an extensive music collection that they wanted to sell. So I went to Stephen, Propstore's owner, and said, how do you feel about including these as part of the poster auction? And he said, well, I'll tell you what, he said, why don't we just do a music auction? And that's where we started.
that's insane. It's amazing how life works. The
Totally.
whole like, oh, I'm getting really good at this tennis thing. I'm really enjoying this. Oh, I'm injuring myself. Okay, now I'm doing this prop store stuff and
Yeah.
I'm selling music memorabilia.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah. It is unreal. I mean, what are your backgrounds?
Oh wow, no one's ever asked. Go on, Jim. I'll let you go first.
As I said, I'm at that awkward place in my life where I don't know what I want to do. I've never really known. So I've just done I worked in retail for bloody ages for some unknown reason. And, and it's that point now. I'm just trying to find my thing. I don't really have a career background to say, if that makes any sense.
So if the BBC come along and said, "Oh, we want you to do this show for us," would you jump at the chance, or would you like your independence?
100%. No, I'd jump at it. I'd jump at it. I'd love to get what we do now with this show. If we could be paid to do this, I'd be the happiest man alive, quite frankly, because I love doing this. This is what I put all my effort into.
Do you not get paid though on your YouTube downloads, or not? No,
No,
Not yet.
not yet. We're working. That's what we're working towards. I'm a trainee dispensing optician in Specsavers. I'm going to, I'm about to sit my exams in May to get in, and they cover that. So that's like that's something I feel is a backup to this. I'd love to host my own TV show. That's my dream.
Mm.
So, yeah. But thank you for. No one's ever asked. So thank you.
No.
We're meant to interview with you though, Mark. Can we?
You've had your one question. So you mentioned obviously got involved in the prop store. How did you even get involved in the prop store? Was it just applying for a job, or was it connections?
I actually live quite close to them. I live in a place called Old Amersham, and they're based in Cheynez, which is literally 10-15 minute drive. And I'd known about Prop Store obviously for a few years. Obviously I did some of the film fairs with my posters and stuff like that. And, they were there in the early days selling some toys, building up the props and stuff. And I'd actually, where they'd taken in some posters, Tim, who is sort of like second in command at Propstore, approached me and said, "Oh, we've got this poster. Can I get your opinion on it?" And it was very sort of, I went in and give them, I think it's worth this and stuff. They said, "Oh, thanks." Top of my head, it was a Star Wars poster. That so I knew of them, they sort of knew of me. And then they decided to do posters, but it's a long story. I To get into movie posters, I wasn't their first choice for a movie poster guy, or not through any fault of mine or theirs, but they had someone go to them and say, look, if we set up a would you be interested in doing a poster auction? This is a guy who's got a website and was firmly established, etc., etc. Would you be interested in putting an auction on for me? So, yeah, cut a long story short, the first two auctions that this guy put together for him weren't brilliant. They were not very well received. Propstore's got a particular clientele, and it's a learning curve. You've got to supply the content that that clientele wants. And the first couple of auctions were Ealing comedies, bit of romance, like what are classic movie posters, but not what Propstore buyers want. So Propstore was still interested in doing posters, very much so. So they approached me and said, "Look, do you want to come in and give it a bit of a new twist?" And yeah, I'm really proud for what we did in what was it? So we did about 4 years of posters. I think averaging around about 700,000 a year out of a couple of auctions, maybe three in some years. So I mean, it was, we'd certainly built up seven figures by the time we'd finished doing it. But obviously, in that time, we'd started to take music on, and music is much more rewarding financially than posters. And so there's only one of me, and
Yeah.
expertise is a little bit hard to come by. And I mean, I'm sure, as you guys know and appreciate, that you're specialists in what you do and what it is, and sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day. And that was the problem with posters versus music. And I really wanted to pursue music because I I just felt it was the market was there for it, and the way
Yeah.
Propstore operate and do things, Propstore were the perfect vehicle to promote music the way I want it promoted. In terms of stuff, prior to, I mean, 6 years ago when I first went there, they were head and shoulders above anybody else in terms of their marketing and their advertising, which is one of the things attracted me to them in terms of posters. I mean, you looked at Bonhams, Christie's, Sotheby's, who were still toying with memorabilia, but they were, it was old school. What they were doing was really quite sticking the mud. It wasn't interesting. It was sort of like, oh, here's a Mark Bolan album signed by Mark, grab your bids and start bidding on it. And Propstore did things differently. It was all about pizzazz, glamour, and this is the music industry. It's rock and roll at the end of the day, and that was good. But since then, the others have changed. Christie's and Sotheby's. Well, Sotheby's are almost totally out of the memorabilia market, and in this country, certainly. Christie's will only take it on if it's a large collection. So they did Jeff Beck last year, which again, in excess of £8 million for an auction. And Bonhams do it, but they don't do it to the level I think that we do it. And I'm really proud what we've built up in such a short time.
It is incredible. And I mean, before we get onto the music side of things, with posters, I don't mean this to sound idiotic in a way, but like, how can you tell the authentic, the actual genuine thing?
A lot of it is size matters, certainly with posters. Also paper.
Okay.
Most of the, and you've also got to take into account that it's not worth faking a poster that you're only going to get £50 for. So you can
Yeah.
quite easily tell what are fakes in terms of the more modern. Probably the most faked poster of all time is Pulp Fiction, and that's the Lucky Strikes, whereby obviously I think it was Memento, whoever the film they did a poster for Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, but they used a packet of Lucky Strike cigarettes with Uma Thurman on the bed,
Yeah.
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
um, it was almost immediately recalled because Americans being Americans, they love a bit of legal.
Of
And
course I do.
um, so these posters were all recalled and they were meant to be destroyed, making them a hugely collectible.
Yeah.
So some of the fakers thought, oh, do you know what? We'll fake some of these, but they're slightly undersized and the print quality isn't very good. Um, but because the posters were so scarce, not many people knew what was an original and what was fake. And that they were, selling at what I would call serious money, like $500-600 for what was a fake poster. And no
Yeah.
one really knew at the time it was fake. So that's probably one of the best examples, but you can tell because the size is different, the paper's different, the print quality is different. Um, I've yet to find what I would call a really old, a 60s or a 70s faked poster, simply because you can't get the paper right. The paper's totally different.
Mm.
And you look at things like print quality, and there are telltale signs on a lot of stuff. It is just one of those things. It's sometimes I can look at a poster and know that it's a modern reprint or something done to deceive just by simply looking at the paper on a photograph. And that's just experience. That's not you know blowing me on trumpet sort of thing. It's something that you get with time, that you can just look at something and that's not right or that's a bit off. And that certainly helped me in terms of I look at all the music stuff we get offered, certainly the high provenance, the high value items that need a lot of provenance in, as I make sure all the boxes are ticked before we offer it out.
It's the fact he said that. I thought he was going to be like, oh, just by feeling the paper. No, I can look at it on a photograph and I'll know. Like, that's amazing.
Not 100. A lot of the time, you just look at it and you think, yeah. And I know it sounds silly, but it's sometimes the shine off the paper because
Hmm.
it's not right and it shouldn't shine like that.
Crazy.
That's crazy. That is insane. But
Crazy.
like, I imagine you've had people that go, I don't know if you've like with jackets. Let's go for jackets. Let's
Hmm.
say Freddie Mercury. He had that yellow jacket with the am I right? Is it
Yeah,
Freddie
yeah,
that has
yeah,
that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like, have you had people be like, oh no, it's the real thing. Like, I promise you, it's definitely yellow.
It's. I mean, probably the most faked clothing is Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
That is a genuine minefield. But we 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 only take in Michael Jackson clothing from if it comes from a very reliable source, and B, the ideal thing for us, which is why we achieved such a high number for his Pepsi jacket. I think it was just over £300,000, was because we photo matched it. And that's a huge part of what we
Nice.
do in terms of, like, that t-shirt you've got on. I bet that you can there's bits on that t-shirt that are wrong. There'll be a defect or something like that you're
Okay.
wearing.
Yeah.
So it might be the stitching's off on the shoulder just by a little bit, or they've missed a thread, or there might be a little nick on the collar. Now, let's just suppose you were ever famous and somebody bought that t-shirt. Our research team will, if we were offered that for sale, would say, yeah, this belonged to Tom from the Chronicles of Podcast. And we can tell that because we've matched the tear on the neck and the skipped thread
It's wild.
and that's what we call photo matching. And that's we can't do it with every item because sometimes the photographs are too old or the videos just
Yeah.
not high def enough for us to do it. But we have our own we have it, and I can't remember how big it is, but I know it runs into the terabytes or the what do you call the biggest storage possible.
Is it terabyte?
I think it is terabytes.
It is terabytes, isn't it?
We've got a system that it took a month to export from the US over the thing, whereby we store films, videos, etc., at the highest quality known to man, simply so that, and this is as a company, this isn't just music, just so we can match clothing, hats, weapons to scenes from films. I mean, many times I'll go in and the team are sitting there and they're studying Gladiator for the millionth time because it's that somebody's sent in a dead tiger which they've had stuffed and we want to try and match it to the no that's wrong, it's not a dead tiger, but it's one of the helmets and stuff like that. It will get matched to a scene, and we try and do that with the music. We try and do that with costumes. Certainly Michael Jackson is a big one, and that we've got the George Michael jacket
Yes.
Yes.
in this auction. Well, that's been photo matched, and that's even though it came from a very reputable source. We always question or I always question and make sure the team where things come from. And if we can photo, even if it's Steven Spielberg consigning an ET puppet, the team will look in. We never take anybody's word for it. We will always look into the research, the background, the history. And if we can photo match it, that is the icing on the cake because it means it is actually genuine. And that's true across the board. It's not just the music, it's true of everything. Like the movie props, they photo match. I mean, they did one of the highest prices ever paid for it. One of the
Okay.
highest prices ever paid was $3.25 million for Darth Vader's lightsaber, and that sold last year. And we briefly held the record for the highest single item of Star Wars memorabilia ever to sell at auction. And then a couple of months later, got beaten by a bit of artwork. But
What?
for 3.5 million,
No
it was
way.
yeah, Tom Young's artwork for the US half sheet, which is a poster size, but it beat us. So yeah, that someone else, I think it's Heritage now hold the record for that. But we briefly held the record. I mean, 3.5 million was a huge jump up from anything that had sold before. But it was again photo matched to various scenes of Darth Vader wielding his lightsaber in Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, because they used the same one in the follow-up film, and that had been sitting in a wardrobe.
That is insane.
That's mad. I was going to ask, like, how do you actually acquire these items? Are you chasing people? Or are they coming to you? Like, what?
It's a mixture. We deal with a lot of performers, like artists, and this is across the board with music and movies. We've some musicians donate or approach us about selling some of their content through the auction for a charity. I do stuff with Zach Starkey for his charity's Teenage Cancer Trust. So normally when you see an artist attached to it, it's the proceeds going to charity. I've got one lined up for our October music auction, which is Jamie from the Stereophonics.
Hmm.
He's going to be donating stuff to a local children's charity in Southwest London where he lives. So you get stuck, but there are other artists who say, blimey, Mark, I do enough for charity. I pay all these taxes and stuff like that. the wife needs a new Chanel or a Birkin, so I need something that's like 50 grand. And you get that, and that's absolutely fine. And a consigner remains totally anonymous.
Mm.
We do not divulge who a consigner is. You get fans who, get stuff signed. You get agents, you get record companies. I mean, presentation discs are a good thing because, most of the time the artists, don't want them. It's, they're not, it's something the manager or the producer hangs on their wall. But if you speak to Noel, Liam, Zach, any of those ones, and that they're not bothered by them. It's they most 99% of the artists we deal with is, they're they 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 know they've made it. They don't need to be judged by their peers by the number of albums or records that they sell. So it comes from everywhere. Collectors as well. It is sometimes collectors sell with us to maybe raise funds to buy in auctions. It's it is yes, we do reach out. We reach out to we buy from other auction houses sometimes. We will buy collections in from people who've been in the music industry and are now need to sell. But it's ever changing in terms of who it is. It could be, somebody off the street comes in and said, I used to rent a house out to Robert Plant and Jimmy Page for them to rehearse in, and they've left their drum kit and their guitars there, and we've only just realised because we've found them all up in the loft. It's you could get that. It's crazy sometimes where the stuff comes from.
So I bet you must have heard some crazy stories like that. It's like having these
There's a
conversations with people.
few, funny enough, that and sometimes people don't realise what they've got. They don't realise the value. In 2 years ago, or we sold George Michael's personal presentation disc for Careless Whisper. Now, this is an
Oh,
example whereby, you know, some of the artists it might have their name on it, but they're not really emotionally attached to it.
mm,
And what it was, one of the old studio techs George used to work with when he first started at Wham, they were moving studios and they found one of the very, very first Wham demo tapes that George had done with Andrew. I think it was Bad Boys and Wham Rap. And they still spoke to George and they said, "Oh, look, we found this. It's really funny." Because by now George was sort of like superstar,
mm.
solo artist in his own right, and said, "What do you want us to do with this?" And George said, "Oh, I'd really love it." He said, "They were fun days and that'd be great." So George offered to buy it, and the guy said, "Oh, don't be stupid." He said, "Oh, it's yours. At the end of the day, it's just that we found it when we're clearing out a cupboard when we're moving." Um, so anyway, he posted it on. 2 days later, this parcel arrived at where he was working at the studio, and lovely personal letter from George in there. Look, thanks very much for this. Please accept this this for Careless Whisper. And he said, feel free, please, to do what you want with it. If you want to keep it, fine. If you want to sell it, fine. He said, absolutely no problem with it. And that was a great story that helped sell the disc and helped get, I think it sold for around about £28,000,
Wow.
which
That.
it is. And sometimes we do stuff which is certainly for some of the families life changing.
Mm.
We recently held a movie memorabilia auction in Los Angeles. That was last month. Well, the biggest selling item was a C3PO head, and that sold for just over $1 million. And it
Wow.
broke all records for a C3PO head. Um, and you know, it always annoys me with some of these cyber warriors online and stuff. Some of the comments where we were fine to brag, this has sold, etc. And one of the comments on the post was, "Yeah, it's great. Someone mad enough to pay over $1 million for a C3PO head. Think of all the good that could have done in the world." and absolutely hats off to our owner and CEO, Stephen, replied with a comment that this money is life changing for the family who put it in because they did not, they really, really, it'll change their life for the good. And that is one of the good things really that can come out of this because people who worked certainly in the movie and the music industry during the 80s, 70s, 80s, and say 90s even, you didn't realize the value of what some of this memorabilia could get.
Mad.
Why do you feel people are so drawn to memorabilia though? Why are people so like, for example, you've got Slash's Les Gibson guitar, which is
Yeah.
beautiful, by the way. I don't play guitar, but it's my favorite brand of guitar ever, and I love it. But why do you feel people are like, oh my God, I have to have it?
Um, I I do think I do think it's personal attachment, and I do think it's what I think it what makes you feel good
Mm.
at the end of the day with it. I think we've all got a little bit of collectability about us. Everybody has got something that they covet that they want, and I think some probably more strongly than others. And I wouldn't like to say to some of the lengths that people go to own some of this stuff. But it is, I think everybody wants something at the end of the day that either makes them feel good or brings back a memory that was a good memory. And I think that is the beauty of an auction, whereby um, if you really want something and your pockets are deep enough, then yes, you can own it. I do think it, and certainly since COVID, we're finding more and more items, and it can be the lesser items. It can be um, a David Bowie teddy bear that it is. If you're a but you want something, I think, at the end of the day, whereby you can open that front door. You've had a real nightmare day at work or at the office or something like that, and you come in and you look at this thing and you think, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I mean,
completely
we
agree.
had it with we had an Elvis tape, which it was actually recorded by Colonel Tom Parker, and it was an Elvis tape of a concert he did in Vegas, the Hilton Hotel in Vegas. And Colonel Tom Parker had, and I forget his name, but it was Liberace's manager. They were always exchanging gifts. And so, as it was at the time, almost like a professional setup, Colonel Tom Parker set up this tape machine, recorded Elvis's concert, and gave the tape to Colonel Tom Parker. And obviously, the tape came up for sale. We got offered the tape. But with music and everything like that, you can't sell it with you can't sell it with copyright, and it's very very difficult. So we sell it as what we call memorabilia with no rights conferred. But imagine getting all your mates to come round and say, "I've got something that you've never heard before, and it's going to absolutely blow your socks off." That's an hour and a half Elvis concert from Vegas in the 70s. I mean, that's just what you could do with something like that.
Amazing. It seems like these things come across you and you're just like, I didn't even know this existed. Like, never in my mind would I thought this would be a thing. It's
I've
crazy.
got one like that in this auction, and you can look it up. And it's Herman the pig.
Okay.
Okay, Pink Floyd The Wall, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
1990, Roger Waters had left by then, and good or bad, Roger, bless him, he does know how to put a show on. And he did the first show in Berlin after the wall come down,
Yes.
obviously called The Wall. So 1990, he had um, this pig designed as part of the stage setting. Now, bear in mind, this pig is a 70-foot by 45-foot inflatable that's run on air generators with, and can actually set it up to a computer. Well, not actually, you have to set it up to a computer because different stages of the show, the air gets pumped into it at different speeds, whatever. So it gives the impression of moving. So you've got this 70, and seriously, you can watch it. It is on videos and YouTubes, etc. Now, we've actually got that in. It's it is one of it's what I call one of the cheaper lots at 4,000. Bid starting at 4,000. But if you're a Pink Floyd fan, and from experience, Pink Floyd fans are more moneyed than a lot of other fans.
Mm.
It is an incredible, even if you never ever set it up, it's in four of the biggest flight cases you'd ever seen. And that's without, or you need a degree in engineering and electricity to set it up. But if you honestly set that up in your 20-acre mansion in the Cotswolds, it would be absolutely, you're for fourth. I'm not saying it will finish at 4,000, but it's for 4,000. You've got something your mates are going to be talking about for years.
That's it. What would you even do with that? Like,
What just it is, but it's also again at that price level, it's very investable.
Mm. Yeah,
It is very. It's a unique. It's where else would you get a unique piece of Pink Floyd memorabilia for £4,000? And this is it. It is a one-off. Bearing in mind when they did the pigs at Battersea Power Station, they actually did two, but one of them blew away. So there's still only
Oh,
one of them now.
that's
it's
nuts.
it's we were talking about on the podcast a few weeks ago the Ace Ventura Rhino, the butt birth Rhino, obviously from the second movie.
Yeah,
It's like what would someone physically do with it other than just have it maybe sitting in the garden somewhere?
we I did a phone bid for somebody, again an American. This was a couple of auctions ago on the movie side of things. Have you ever seen the film The Grinch? The Grinch, whatever it is. Is it called The Grinch Who Loves Christmas or something like that? As I
When
say,
she stole Christmas, I think.
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his sleigh was life size. I mean, the sleigh you see in the movie is a life size Grinch sleigh. It was huge, and I mean massive. And I'm on the phone to a phone bidder, and I'm saying to, and they're bit, yeah, go up, go up. Yep, yeah, I want that. Go up. I said, anyway, he won it. And I said, oh, congratulations. I said, what are you actually going to do with it? He said, well, he said, once it's shipped to the US, I think it was in our New York office and he was somewhere like Ohio. Sorry, our LA office and he was in somewhere like Ohio. He said, well, he said, you know what? He said, I've just bought this huge plot of land. He said, I'm sort of like going to have it as my bachelor pad. He said, I'm having a home built on there at the moment. He said, I'm actually, he said, I've already spoken. I no matter money was no object with this. He said I was going to. I've already spoken to the architect who's designing a building to go round it. He was actually. It was built. The Grinch was. The Grinch and Elf were his favourite films. Now, don't ask me why or what, but he was actually having a building constructed around this Grinch sleigh. And if you look it up, it's big. And it is
Mad.
genuinely big. And it was good. It was filled with Grinch and Elf Christmas memorabilia.
That's amazing.
That's insane.
That is
Fair play.
amazing. I love it. But how do you decide exactly what's going up for auction? Is it just pieces that you've just acquired and got in? Because I know it's for this one that you've got at the end of April. There's a lot of Queen stuff involved.
The Queen, I tend to target certain groups or artists that I know will do well with Propstore clients.
Okay,
Previously we've concentrated on Oasis. And last year was the biggest Oasis memorabilia auction ever to happen. It was just one of those things. Over £1 million we raised for in sales on that auction. But
incredible.
I like to target groups that I know our buyers want, and so that is Led Zeppelin, that is Pink Floyd, that is David Bowie, that is Michael Jackson. Yes, that that is Queen is one of the things that's very popular with our buyers. So we had the opportunity to, after speaking with Peter Hince, to take his collection in. He decided it was time to sell. Now, Peter was the head roadie for Queen. In particular, he was very close with John Deacon and Freddie Mercury. That when he first got the job as a roadie, they were the ones that he was tasked with looking after them too. And then he quickly rose to be head roadie, and he was with them right up until the last concert in '86. So he had all of his content is fresh to market, and
Wow.
it's personal item. It's not just personal. It's weird because we've got 68 lots which are Peter Hince lots, and about 18 lots which are from other consigners. Now that's simply because you'll see with the other 18 lots, it's a lot of signed pieces, it's a lot of handwritten Freddie Mercury lyrics, and it's simply because Peter didn't have that sort of content. Because working with Queen every day, day in, day out, you don't think to ask them for an autograph or can you sign this? Can
No.
you sign? It's just something you don't do. And he said to me, he said, "Do you know, Mark?" He said, "The only thing I've ever asked them to sign was my mum loved Night of the Opera. It was her favourite Queen album. So it was her birthday, and I asked them to sign an album for her. And he said, that's the only time I've asked for an autograph from them. And it's true. You just don't
Awesome.
think to ask for stuff like that when it's you know, meeting Freddie Mercury every day is your job. It's and it weirdly when you speak to Peter, Queen were unusual in the fact that their key staff they actually employed 12 months of the year. It wasn't just concert to concert, which some of the other groups did. They actually employed their staff. So, as Peter says, you know, it was a very loyal, close knit community, and he said it was, you know, they were all like family.
It's amazing. I love that. But like you say, like to him, it's his colleagues, it's his friends. It's not,
Yeah,
oh my
that's
God, this
yeah,
is, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's, but I love from that Peter Hince's stuff, that gold microphone is
yeah.
absolutely beautiful. Like,
Well,
wow.
I mean, again, it's a bit of a throwback to the. I mean, Freddie had them personally commissioned because he wanted the gold on them because he knew. I mean, primarily he had them made. He had five of them made. This one we definitely know was used on Top of the Pops. Los Palabras de Amor, the language of love. I think that translate to when Freddie was on there. Um, it's because Top of the Pops then was all lip syncing. So it's you know you can see him with it, and it's brilliant. I mean I mean what we've got with the Queen, Peter Hince, and the other Queen items. It's the largest Queen collection to come to market since Freddie's auction in 2023 at Sotheby's,
Amazing.
which hugely successful. And you know, just in the first week, the response we've had to the Queen lots has been phenomenal. I mean, absolutely, it's been super popular. I mean, I'm not gonna. It has surprised me just how popular they've been straight out of the gate, and that's the high end stuff. We've already the microphone is already sold. The flag has already sold. The microphone, the dressing gown is already sold. You know, these are big ticket items.
That's insane. It's I love it though because obviously you range from like Queen and then you go to Notorious B.I.G. and then you go to Ed Sheeran and it's just and then you got Hendrix. So it's
Yeah.
I have you ever had clients ring up and go, "Can you get this?"
Yes, and I've actually got something in the auction for them this time, and it's the first time we've had what, believe it or not, one of the most popular things people ask. Any, you know, he did wear a lot of them, but Michael Jackson fedoras. are always popular.
Yeah.
They're also hugely, hugely faked. So we make sure that the ones we offer are absolutely genuine and the real thing. And we've got two in this time. The black one comes with a letter from Pepsi, who was the CEO of Pepsi, because obviously Pepsi had a huge tie-in with Michael Jackson,
Mm.
and you know, they used to get the fedoras from him to give away to their clients, to make people go out and buy more Pepsi. And we've got a red one, a white one, and a black one in. I always get asked for a Michael Jackson fedora, and they always do phenomenally well. And I think a lot of that, I'll go back to what I said earlier, is because people trust us. People know the provenance is absolutely bang on. But the thing I've got in this time, which I do expect to do well, is I was asked for ever since I started doing these auctions. If you ever get anything in for, and this is from two people, so hopefully they're going to be bidding against them each other to drive the price up. And it's if you ever get anything Sid Barrett, let me know
Mm.
because it's Sid Barrett stuff. He was hugely influential, and yes, he had his problems, but he really set the tone for what Pink Floyd became.
Yeah.
And real Pink Floyd fans absolutely would love something from Sid. And we've actually got two handwritten letters in from him, which comes from his girlfriend Jenny Spires. And they're absolutely brilliant. He signs them Roger, which was his real name. So it was Roger. His nickname was Sid, but he's they're amazing, and they're fantastic letters. And I know it sounds silly, but I love reading stuff like that. What they've actually put in. One of the other items we've got in is a 3-page letter that Eric Clapton wrote to a fan. Now, I could not believe it when I had this in. You look it up. Clapton has got absolutely. If you could fall in love with handwriting, you would fall in love with these letters. Clapton has got absolutely beautiful handwriting. I mean, amazing. Absolutely, you can just imagine him at school, and the nuns rapping him over the knuckles for not writing things properly. I mean, and you seriously need to check it out because it's the handwriting is beautiful, and it's 3 pages, and he's just written this to a fan after a fan wrote to him, and it details why he left the Yardbirds. And
Wow.
the Yardbirds, at the time, one of the biggest bands in the world. Everybody, the Yardbirds are splitting up, the Yardbirds are splitting up. And yeah, Clapton has just written his heart out to a fan as to why he was leaving the Yardbirds. It's brilliant, absolutely
Oh,
brilliant.
there's amazing things. I was like scrolling through, looking at all the stuff that's in this auction. Like personally, for me, the signed Kiss guitar stood out because they're my favorite band of all time. So it's like, I need
First
that.
band
I
I ever
need that.
saw, Kiss.
Oh,
First band I ever saw. And do you
same.
want to know, weirdly, it was years and years ago at Wembley Arena. And they were on. It was a mate of mine from school dragged me along because they were a huge Kiss fan. I'd sort of heard of them, but the backup band were Bon Jovi.
Oh,
Nice.
what?
Yes. I know. I remember it. I know. I wasn't there, but I know of this
Yeah,
tour.
yeah.
Yes.
The,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
backup band was Bon Jovi, and no word of a lie. It was, you know, people wanted Bon Jovi to
Yeah.
carry on. They were so good. But Kiss was a spectacle. Kiss was
Yeah.
an absolute spectacle, and I still see it now with the end, the drum set rising up with curtain of flames underneath it, and you couldn't use real pyrotechnics then. It was, even health and safety wasn't that mad even then. But it was just, I remember the closing. I mean, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I,
Such
I,
a
I love Kiss now. I mean,
yeah.
some of the corniest songs going, but for me, it's, I'm not a serious guy. I mean, I'm not, you can keep your Nirvanas and all of that. It's, not for me. And I like to be entertained, and
Absolutely. They're the
and
perfect band for
Kiss
entertainment. Yeah.
were that. But when it's the one
Absolutely.
thing we haven't had anything substantial in for it. But my favourite is all time is Meatloaf. And I would love to get something in from Meatloaf or Jim Steinman, but never say never, but that just hasn't come up yet. And that's one of my taglines that I try and get in on a lot of stuff is Propstore, we make your rock and roll dreams come true. And
Oh, I
That,
love that.
that's the
I was
tagline for this episode title.
yeah,
Brilliant.
I was actually going to ask you if there was anything that you were particularly like, I can't believe this is in my hands right now, or I can't believe this is here with us.
the not certainly this auction. It's the one that puts a big smile on my face is Herman the pig. I absolutely love that. And then from an emotional point of view is obviously the John Lennon poster.
I was going to ask you about this.
Yeah, that
Yes.
was that is an amazing piece. I mean, the history on it, I don't know if you've listened to the audio. Um the audio of Lennon speaking about signing this particular poster.
No.
Yes.
You should listen to that. It's on the
Oh,
listing. It's
okay.
sort of like about halfway down, you can click on it. But
Okay.
Lennon, for just over a minute, is talking about signing this poster, and it's absolutely crystal clear. And we've been asked why it is so crystal clear. It's because it was actually part of a radio interview. The guy who he signed the poster for, Ron Hummel, was the guy doing the interview, and he was RKA Radio in New York, and they'd spent the day with them, and then John had given them all complimentary copies of Double Fantasy. Well, the promotional Double Fantasy albums all had this poster in, which you couldn't get for in your normal ones you were buying at Tower Records or wherever it was at the time. So they was the poster special on its own. And Ron asks John when they finish the interview to sign it, and John goes into this thing whereby the pen won't write, and shall I go over it? And Yoko's pushing John to get into the car to go to the studios, and it's an amazing listen for a minute, and then John turns around and explains to people, I love signing stuff for people. It's a real thing. We think on the timeline, it's definitely the last poster John ever signed. Now we think he signed this poster for Ron, and this is us piecing it together. Then he went outside the Dakota building to get into the car, and that's when he signed the poster for Mark Chapman. And then he signed twice more in the studio. So yeah, it is very emotional listening to it, and it is, but it look a lot of it is proper rock and roll. It's cultural history, and to actually have something like that and to offer it, it is incredible, absolutely amazing.
So
I was going to say, wouldn't Beatles stuff be quite uh, sought after?
Yeah, Beatles stuff is very, very sought after, but I will also say certainly with the autographs, there's an awful lot of fakes out there.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
must get for every decent set of autographs we get in that are genuine, I probably get 10 or 12 more that are fakes and good fakes. It is a shame. It's one of the negatives of what I have to do.
Yeah.
It's telling people that look, what you've got isn't right or isn't right in our opinion. And we use certainly with there's certain artists, Beatles, Hendrix, Rolling Stones, Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, we get them treble checked into if it passes what we think is right, we get those items treble checked by experts in the UK and the US before we offer it.
I can only imagine because, there's can only imagine the amount of people try and forge a signature or trace a signature,
Uh, I,
anything. Yeah,
I was absolutely gutted as I say, I'm not a huge Nirvana fan, but I do appreciate the significance of what they've done and what they did for music. And one of the first things I was offered last year, which would have been for the April auction, was a signed set list from MTV Unplugged, the famous gig they did. And the guy who offered it to us actually purchased it in the 90s, the late 90s. It was that old, and he was sitting on it for his pension.
Oh
no.
no.
And that would have seriously done six figures. Oh my God, it's
Oh,
seriously
Oh
done six
man.
figures. And I was, it was so good. Like, but it was, um, and I gave it to one of our experts, and he said, he said, I don't think this is right. I said, what don't you think is right? And he said, I don't think the signatures are right. He said, I think the set list is right, but I don't think it, because that was handwritten as well by Cobain. And he said, I don't think the signatures are right. He said, they're slightly off. He said, particularly the Dave Grohl. He said, but he said, I think the set list is right. And then, because we do, you know, he came back and said, no, I don't think it's right. So then we referred it to someone else because, you know, as an expert, yes, you can be wrong. And then it came back wrong again. And then we even tried it a third time. Um, and that was the hardest call I had to do that I've ever had to do in this. And I know it sounds dramatic, but
not at all.
No, not
it
at all.
was, yeah, I would, it was one of them. I was absolutely gutted for the guy when I told him on the phone that, look, it's not genuine.
Oh
Oh man, that must
God,
have
my
been
heart breaks for that
heartbreaking.
guy.
Yeah, so
But but saying, if it was genuine, that is what will be one of the items we will be talking about on the podcast because that's how significant a piece of paper can
Mm.
be.
that's so crazy though. It's just
Oh my God.
mind blowing when you think about it that like one A4 sheet could be worth millions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It would have definitely done six figures. Definitely.
Yeah. It's such an iconic show as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, that's
Absolutely.
incredible. But obviously, you mentioned the double fantasy. We got the Freddie Mercury microphone, Michael Jackson, not Michael Jackson, sorry, but George Michael's jacket. Like,
Yeah.
there's some incredible items in this auction. So, for people that are listening now, how do they get involved in bidding if they want to take part?
Go to propstore.com. You'll see a section which says auctions. Click on that. Then there'll be the music catalog, there'll be the music auction clearly displayed on the landing page. Now you can browse, you can just click on view auction if you want to. So you can have a look first, see everything that's on there. And I do recommend that if you do, when you get to the John Lennon lot, click on the audio. It's in the listing. And I guarantee if you don't come away with your lump in your throat, then you're not alive. And yeah, then if there's stuff in there that you're interested in, you can register to bid. Again, that's through that auction. Really simple and painless process. If you do get any trouble, then contact any of us at the office. We can put you right. And also, if there's anything in there that you've got questions on, that they can drop us an email and say, well, how do you know this was signed by Coldplay? And then, I mean, we do get it. I mean, it's we get questions on everything, and as long as it's not somebody trying to be clever, then I really don't mind. Oh yeah, you get them. It's as long as it's not someone trying to be clever, then I happily, I could spend hours on the phone with someone trying to explain to them what this is and why they should buy it if they're interested in it.
Because I'm curious, did like the movie, so say Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, did
Yeah.
those sorts of movies then drive people to go, Gonnie Elton John?
Yeah, without a doubt. It's a few years ago. Do you remember the Elvis movie?
Yes.
Austin Butler. That gave a huge shot in the arm to Elvis memorabilia. I mean, it was Elvis memorabilia. I wouldn't say it had flatlined, but it wasn't as popular as it was before. And then you get something like the Elvis movie, which I loved. I thought it was brilliant. That absolutely reinvigorated Elvis collectability. I mean, so much so that we sold a pair of Elvis's Grand Prix sunglasses last year for £75,000.
Bad money.
It's wild. I love it though. I
I
love it.
do.
I'm invested.
Because I look at these
So-
things and I went, I tell you what, if I had the money, I probably would.
That George Michael faith jacket. So my mum is one of the biggest George Michael fans I think going. Every time I speak to her, oh, I love a bit of George, love a bit of George, me. And she said, oh, I saw the jacket was being sold on the news last week.
Yeah.
Like, so you're getting obviously coverage. She didn't actually tell me which news channel it was. So
Good Morning Britain.
Okay.
Good Morning Britain. They're real. Richard's a real champion for Propstore, if I'm being honest. He loves what we do. We get on well with the booking agents, and often for them, it's a case of who approaches us first. It's either Good Morning Britain, This Morning, or Lorraine, as it was then. You can't be on all three. So when we dropped the press release, which I think you guys got, or through
Yeah.
Felicity, when we dropped the press release, then it's the first one through the door. But I, as much as I love doing the podcasts and for people and the TV, I love doing radio, because for me, music is radio. That's when I first
Yeah.
heard music, and we did quite a lot today with Three Counties, and I've got the American stations lined up next week, which is fantastic. And when I say to people about it, it's 2 hours of talking, and by the end of it, you really, really can't talk. It's because you're literally doing 10-minute slots, and it's constant. It is
Yeah.
bang, 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 bang. And you're talking about, you've got to remember that even though you're talking about the same items all the time, that the people in the different regions in the US, don't know that. For them, you've got to manage. And it's interesting how what they're interested in asking about changes going from east to west coast.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's fascinating. I love it. What do they range from then? Is it based on where those artists have originated from, or?
New York was very when we started with the New York stations. They were very Beatles orientated, etc. Then you go sort of like the Midwest, and that's a lot of your classic American bands, and also your Led Zeppelin is popular in, shall we say, the Midwest. And then you get out more West Coast, and I was quite surprised last year because West Coast just absolutely loved Oasis. They were mad.
Really?
To coin a phrase, they were absolutely mad for it. I mean, really, really, really. It was. They did the Oasis pop up in Los Angeles was pound for pound the most financially successful of any of the Oasis pop ups. I think the average spend was something like $280 for anybody who went through the door,
wow.
and you had queues of people trying to get in there. They were hugely, hugely phenomenal. You'd never ever say Oasis were popular in Los Angeles.
No.
I thought they were very British. I didn't think they broke outside of
No,
Britain
they
much, to be
did,
honest,
honestly. Last year they
Fair
were
play.
huge over there, and I think that's something that in their heyday they never could accomplish. They really couldn't, tie down huge success in America, but they embraced them this time, and I do think that's probably, it does go to show a sad state for the music industry, because as much as I do like Oasis, there's not really been any group since them that can hold a candle. If I'm no one. And
It's odd, isn't it?
yeah,
It's odd that you have all these huge momentous bands through the 60s, the 70s, the 90s, but
nothing.
now there really isn't, is there?
Well, I'll tell you the one that does do well for us, and it's a silly one, and my head researcher Katie will never forgive me for saying this. Is One Direction. They're popular. And
Okay.
not in terms of an Oasis sort of popularity, but in terms of I mean, can you still call them a boy band? But their memorabilia is very, very sought after. We sold a t-shirt last year, and it was a Rolling Stones t-shirt that Harry wore on stage, and that sold for over £3,000.
Oh my days. but it's definitely the generation of the solo artists now, though, isn't it? I
Oh
feel.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ed Sheeran, obviously
yeah.
being a massive one, Lewis Capaldi.
Taylor
I imagine
Swift.
little Taylor Swift, hugely, yeah, of
Oh
course.
yeah. Good luck with getting anything from Miss Swift. It's her management team are probably have got shares in most legal companies across the US. They're the most all we can do to get in for her is sign material, and that's it. We've tried. I mean, I've tried and tried and tried to get anything substantial in for Taylor Swift because again, she's one of the artists we get asked for a lot. Absolutely no chance. It is just hoovered up. And I can tell you a very quick story. We spoke to one of the photographers who took an album cover of hers, and I think it's the one that's got a chair on it. I'm not 100% sure on, but it's literally. I was so excited when I got the call that I was thinking, oh, Taylor's, we're going to get this, we're going to get props from the album shoot and stuff like that. How wrong was I? The only thing we got offered was the photographer's personal Polaroid camera that they used for continuity. Everything else was supplied, including, the cameras that we used for the shoot, the props, absolutely everything was supplied by the record management company and had to sign NDAs whereby, they couldn't even talk about this until a certain period after the shoot had all been done, published, and they allowed them two photographs to put on their website to say they worked on it. That is it.
Oh my days.
That
That's
is just
mad.
how, they're, and yet, weirdly, it's one of the reasons I love dealing with people like Zach Starkey, people like Ed Sheeran, is that they really appreciate, they love their fan. One of the reasons that came to us was he was fed up of the fans being ripped off by, you know, fakes and stuff that wasn't right. And, at the end of the day, some of these fans spend a hell of a lot of money on this memorabilia.
Oh yeah.
And, for someone like Taylor Swift, huge, biggest fan base in the world probably at the moment. And, she's not really doing anything for the fans, which is a bit of a shame. And I'm not saying that they would spend silly money, but maybe put some of the stuff up for charity or give
Yeah.
fans a chance to actually own some of this.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you.
Absolutely agree, 100%. Just quickly on the flip side of what Tom said with like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man and stuff like that. Obviously, being a Brummie, this was devastating for all of
Ozzy
us.
Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne, you've got some incredible Sabbath items in this auction
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Like, is that garnered more of an interest from the Ozzy
I
and Sabbath side?
Yes, and I'm not a big believer in this cashing in on people's after they've
No.
passed away. And when Ozzy sadly did pass away, I was inundated with Ozzy items for about a month afterwards, and I turned all of them down. I said,
Good.
"Look,
Fair
Go
not
play.
on,
really
Mark.
interested at the moment. Come back to us in 3, 4 months, and we can talk about it," because it was people just looking to cash in to make
Yeah.
Yeah.
a quick buck. And I'm not, I had to think twice, in all honesty, about taking the John Lennon poster in, but it was just too historically important. If it was
Mm.
the Mark Chapman album, I wouldn't have taken it. But
No.
the poster was slightly different. And so, yeah, Ozzy is. I think Ozzy, will he ever become, in terms of collectability, the next Freddie? Probably not, because of his. Um, the groups were never as successful as Queen,
No.
but hugely, hugely loved and hugely collectible. I mean, it's just one of those things. He has got a real rock legacy, and most people won't hear a bad word said about him. He was genuinely meant to be a really, really good guy, and a lot of what he just had this larger than life persona. Biting the heads off bats and stuff like that. I mean, it's he probably shouldn't have done it, and he probably would have done himself more harm medically than he should have done. But it was, look, I'll probably get the Bat Protection Society complaining about what we're saying, but it's rock and it
No, I get what you mean.
you even if it's true or not, and it's you're not surprised to hear someone like Ozzy has done that. I mean, look, you wouldn't get Ed Sheeran doing it, put it that way.
No.
It's it was just an Aussie thing, and
Absolutely.
absolutely fantastic. I mean, there won't ever, bit like there won't ever be another Freddie, there won't ever be another Aussie, and
No.
they will try and replace him. Will Sabbath go on in various guises, etc. For me, I agree with in many ways with what John Deacon did with Queen. And once Freddie had passed away, as far as John was concerned, he did the tribute concert, and that was it. He totally walked away from it. And I think, something you couldn't replace Freddie. And as much as, in my opinion, you can't replace Ozzy. I mean, it's let his legacy live on for what he created.
Absolutely. 100%. But obviously, alongside the online auction, you're hosting a public exhibition at the Cumberland Hotel,
Yeah.
April 22nd till 25th.
Yep.
Obviously, you can't show all over 400 lots. So, what sort of things can people see at this?
Well, as you come in, I'll try and do the room. We've zoned the corners, or I've zoned the corners, put it that way. So when you come in on the right is that corner is the Peter Hince collection, and there's the dressing gown there, the microphone, couple of nice photographs, a couple of some records. And one of the records we've got in is 7 inch for "We Will Rock You." That's the demo version, and it's the only it Peter believes it's the only known example that exists. So if you're a vinyl collector and a Queen fan, that is something that is really quite special. And then moving around the room, and I'll try and get this right. Then next to we've got the Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls leather coat, and I think you realise just how big this guy was.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't. He's not just Biggie in name, but he's Biggie in body. It's huge. I mean, absolutely massive. Um, then we move on to Ed Sheeran's costume, and then something a bit special, but again nice, because we do like to appeal to the feminine collector every now and then, but I have a feeling these won't go to a feminine collector, and that's four showgirls costumes for Little Mix, and they're proper saloon girl costumes. They're super. They're really cool, really really cool. And then in zone two, the zone two corner is sort of like the heavy rock section. So we've got Matt Sorum's drum kit from Guns N' Roses. We've got
Oh,
That's nice. There's a brilliant photo. If you come down, I'm going to take the photo. Matt in his garage, and he's got his red Corvette in the background, and he's posing in front of his drum kit. That's super cool. So we've got Matt Sorum's Guns N' Roses drum kit, the Slash guitar, and we've not even touched on that, but we've got Slash's guitar.
yeah, that's good.
How did we not touch on that? Yeah.
Don't start now. We've got the Slash guitar. Another one, a brilliant Nicky Six Motley Crue guitar, which was signed at Wembley a few years ago and given to our consigner. That's a great piece, and a Slash hat. It's and also limited edition Steve Jones guitar. Can't
Oh,
can't miss a bit of Pistols.
nope.
And a great top hat, which wasn't worn by Slash, but he's drawn a great picture on it and signed it. And then we're moving round to, I think we've got, just trying to think. Then we move on to the Beatles and the Oasis section. So we've got a suit from Ringo Starr, which is brilliant. We've got a leather jacket that Noel wore, a fur coat that George Harrison wore. That It's actually, he gets his mate Eric Clapton to carry it for him as they're getting off the private jet. But it's as you do.
As you do, yeah.
But it's got his it's got his name embroidered in it, and it's a great fur coat. And my favourite of that section is um the Wonderwall dress. So the poster for the Wonderwall single where she's standing in the background through a gold
Ooh.
picture frame.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the dress Anicha wore in for that shoot. And everybody says, oh, which model did they use and stuff like that. No, she was a receptionist at Creation Records. They just told her to jump on the tube and get there, bring her makeup.
It's incredible.
So that's brilliant. Along with some other Beatles stuff, we moved some of the cabinets. We've got original Paul McCartney lyrics for the song "Goodbye" that he wrote for Mary Hopkins, which is brilliant. We've got the set list, handwritten set list, and signed on the reverse for the Beatles' second appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show,
Oh,
which is
wow.
brilliant. Um, some George Harrison music notes for While My Guitar Gently Weeps. They're really nice. Again, great selection of Oasis handwritten items by Noel with some amazing signed stuff. And then we in between that there's two Michael Jackson fedoras. And then we move on to the George Michael section, which is his Faith jacket, a George Armani suit that he wore for I forget which tour it was, a later tour, um, which is I forget, not the live. It is a lot. I think it's not. It's called Live, the tour that he did. But the George Michael's suit, um a Careless Whisper. It's the demo disc which was done at the House Studios, which is great. And hopefully, and we've got a bit of an additional lot, so I can give you guys a heads up. And we don't normally like to add lots once it's locked and done, but you can have the exclusive. Well, I don't know when this is going out, so you might need to double check. But
Okay.
we, we've actually got the original drawings and designs in for the La Rocca jacket from La Rocca themselves.
Wow.
So the original designs with the BSA and the logo on the back and the studs on the jacket.
Oh, my days.
We've got the original designs from the person who drew it and designed the jacket coming in, so they're going to be added as an A lot. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, everything crossed.
But yeah, no, they just got in touch literally when they saw the jacket was coming up for auction and said, well, is it too late to put these in? Normally, I would say yes, it is too late, and we'll keep them for the October auction. But I'm never going to get the opportunity to put these with the jacket again.
No.
So I think
Absolutely.
whoever buys the jacket will probably be interested in the designs, and they're really cool. It's super super cool. It's a bit like I'll go when I said about Herman the pig. That actually comes with a massive book. It's not like a scrapbook, but it's got everything in for that concert. It's got the stage plans, it's got setup details, it's got all the technical things you need to know about Herman, about where he's blown up and what. See, it's amazing. I mean, the book is
What?
worth the money on its own.
That's wild. That's absolutely amazing. It really is. Like some of these items are just incredible. And like you say, some of these things will mean so much to someone. Like that song, that album, that
Yeah,
tour really helped them on a personal
yeah,
level. And just to own that, it just will mean
yeah.
so much. I think it's
Oh, it
amazing.
would. And I always try and keep it that there is something for everyone. It's not for the people with, the collectors, the fans with deep pockets. I always like to include, you know, at least 20, 30 pieces of what I call entry level.
Mm.
Um, which starts at £100, which starts at £200. I mean, they don't always finish at that price. I mean, we had a teapot signed by Noel Gallagher in last year's auction, as you do.
As you do.
And, when you get to the popularity of Noel, all you got to do is mention a brand on the radio and you're inundated. And Noel mentioned that he liked Yorkshire tea. So the marketing department got in touch with him and said, "Oh, it's really good. We've got these teapots. Would you sign them for charity? And we'll just send you shed loads of tea." So he said, "Yeah." But
Phenomenal.
the teapots are really collectible. They're just a red teapot with Yorkshire tea on it, and Noel signed a handful of them. Well, I can honestly tell you that we did an exhibition at the Cumberland the year before last, not last year, the year before last, and nearly all the Oasis fans, and I'm probably going to say 90%, all of them wanted to have a photo taken with this teapot.
It's insane.
And it started at, the start price was 300, but we knew it was going to do real, and it sold for over 3,000 in the end.
Oh, wow.
And it's
That's
just one of those
mental.
things that it was just so popular. Everybody wanted, and a teapot.
Yeah.
What a great bit of branding for, you can see why some of these companies do it. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it is, a great
Oh.
selling point.
I love it
I
so much.
I mean, he's not wrong. Yorkshire tea is the best tea anyway, so I'm fully with him there.
Oh, Mark, I feel like we could talk to you all bloody day with all these
Yeah, I
incredible
agree.
stories.
Yeah.
But I'm just intrigued now because you've talked about all these incredible items, like artists you've said yourself you love. Have you ever put a bid in on any of these?
I bid on, and we are allowed to. We get charged the full rate, same as everybody else. I put a bid in, and it was purely from an investment point of view, in all that, because I thought we'd put it in, and that was the Oasis banner from Nebworth last year.
Mm.
It was in at 1,000 to 2,000, so I'd put a bid in the low thousands, thinking, "Oh, I might have a chance of winning this." And it wasn't one of the cute. We've got another banner in this year from the Live 25, which was the first concert at Cardiff, which is huge. This one was probably 2 meters by about 4 meters, so it was sort of manageable. And it was the Oasis logo. It was Nebworth. It was from the tour. It was a great piece. Yeah, I got blown out the water 25 grand later, and so I got away with it.
Ow!
Jeez.
Oh my God, this is amazing. I love these stories. I really do.
That's great. Absolutely great.
Oh, absolutely incredible. But before we get out of here, a question I do like to ask, looking back at your incredible career that you've done with the prop store so far, are there any like particular items, sorry, that stand out to you? One or two that have just been like, I can't believe I got to work with this.
One to finish on, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Freddie Mercury's bright yellow flight case from Live Aid. And when you see it, it's the one, again, we photo matched it. It's the one that sits next to him on the stage at Live Aid. And it's there. Now, Live Aid was very topical and poignant for me because I could have gone. We actually I was working in Greenford, my dad's company, and we had a girl, one of the girls who worked for a secretary called Karen. Her dad was head of security at Wembley, and she came. And what you guys, because you're too young, don't remember, is everybody was so fed up with Bob Geldof by then. It was, people just didn't want to hear it, and I'm just being honest here.
That's fine.
I've heard that before, yeah.
It was, they didn't want it, and Karen come in and said, "Oh, there's like Dad's got loads of spare tickets for the concert on Saturday. If you want to go, just let me know, and I'll bring them in." And everybody, "Oh, no, leave off, Karen. And what do I want to go to that for?" And stuff like that. Because I think the other thing, if you remember at the time, the weather was brilliant. It was absolutely baking hot. It was amazing. And yeah, so never went. As it was, I spent all day in, curtains drawn to stop the sun, watching it. And, I can remember now seeing it and being totally blown away by Queen. I mean, like everybody, they just absolutely stole the show. And I always remember seeing Freddie and this yellow thing next to him to the piano. And then to get the call last year, no, not like no, year before last, to get the call to say, oh, I wonder if you'd be interested, but I've got this flight case which I think Freddie used at Live Aid, and it's just been sitting in my storage. No, weirdly, that where it was in storage was about half an hour from where we were. So I said I couldn't wait to see it. I said, look, I'll jump in the car and I certainly love to see it. And yeah, absolutely bang on. It'd been used for not just Live Aid, but it was used for the Queen right up until they finished with the Works tour and the Kind of Magic. And it was to see it was absolutely amazing. I mean, it really, really was. It sold for. I think if it came to market, it sold for 60,000, which is probably a record for a flight case. But if it came to market now, 2 years, I think you'd probably get more than that.
Yeah.
It was
100%.
it was just and everything about it worked for us. We had pictures we had the video from Live Aid. We had pictures of Freddie at the white piano with this case literally sitting next to the piano. So we had all the shots of, and it was just one of those pieces that it photo matched really easily because of the marks on the case, and it just stood out because it was bright yellow. It was, it turned out that each band member had their own color, and I know Freddie's was yellow, but then I probably got it wrong. But John's was blue, Brian's was red, and Roger's was green, and that the roadies obviously for each individual person, that was their stuff. But when you look at Freddie with his yellow jackets and if you had to guess which color was Freddie's, you'd have said,
Yeah.
That's incredible. I meant to mention, isn't there a signed Live Aid program or something?
there
in
is
this?
that's from Live Aid. Stuff is very popular. I mean, really, really popular. Last year we sold a ticket, a program, a t-shirt, and I think a car park pass. And that surprised me. That was an unsigned program. That sold for 5,000.
Wow.
It's because people like me, it is look back at, I think we've all got our own memories of Live Aid.
Yeah.
Just think it's one of those events that happened in the world that people actually remember, where a bit like when, oh yeah, of course I remember where I was when Kennedy died. I think people remember where they were when Live Aid happened. And I think it's one of those real pivotal rock and roll moments that, it was just this at the end, despite all, Bob Geldof jumping up and down, it was just one of these rock and roll celebrations that everybody remembers where they were. And yeah, one of the things I do look out for is Live Aid stuff. And the brochure we've got it's signed by nearly everybody who took part in the UK. It's got according to our experts, it's got one of the best set of Queen signatures they've ever seen. And it's like they really took the time to sign it, which you don't often get. But it's a special piece.
It's incredible. Oh, I could seriously be here for hours. Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our incredible guest?
I do. I have one more, even though that was an unbelievable question to finish on. When you first started out your journey, obviously with comic books, and you had the offer for the Alien movie and that sort of stuff, and then getting into the prop store, did you ever think this is where you'd be today?
What, on a podcast with two old men?
Yeah. What are you trying to say? I wasn't around when Live Aid happened. But no, I mean, like your journey that you've taken to get to where you are, to do what you do now with the people that you work with, sort of thing. Come on, Mark.
Do you know, I always thought I'd do something in even when I said to you, like I always wanted to work in entertainment and stuff like that. I always thought I would end up doing something, and it was more likely to be Crime Watch or something like that. But It was. I genuinely always did think I would do something like this, and I think it. You read a lot about some of the pitfalls of social media and how it can be quite toxic, but I think what you guys do and a lot of podcasters and a lot of these type of programs, I, I I think it shows a really positive side to what social media can do, and I don't think there's enough spoken about that. I know I think I've had a great over hour and a half now, and to be honest, I could go on, but it's not. I'll happily set something else up if you want to do it, but it's. I think it's a real positive thing when it's presented the way that you guys do it.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate you.
That
Really
means a
appreciate
lot.
No,
Thank you so much.
genuinely, I've really enjoyed that.
appreciate it.
I've really enjoyed it, and I think it's a good thing, and I hope you get more viewers and more posts because of that, and I hope it goes on to be what they call viral. I mean, it goes fingers crossed.
We can but hope.
But it's no, I do think it's, and I think that's one of the things for people like me who, would have liked to have done something in films, TV, music, etc., even though they haven't got an ounce of talent. And this gives you the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
You can do, and it's a bit like I sometimes look at some of these podcasts, and you see some of the mainstream entertainers, and you think, how has he got a job? And it's there's a certain Ramesh Ranganathan, and like, how on earth is he on TV? Seriously, we listened to him in the car on Saturday, and you just think, do you know, you're getting paid a lot of money, and you're terrible, and and yet you see so many, genuinely charismatic and talented people on these podcasts, and that's not you two, by the way.
Oh,
And
Thank you, mate.
they really come. You think, why aren't these people? Why aren't they on TV? Why aren't they got a bigger audience? But I do think that social media can certainly open the doors for stuff like that, and that's why I love doing it. I speak my mind. I have to be careful what I do say sometimes. But it's I love doing it. I love doing stuff like this. Love doing this. Love doing radio. People say to me, "Oh, because when we do This Morning or Good Morning Britain or some of the BBC, it's live." And people say, "Do you not get nervous doing live TV?" And I say, no. At the end of the day, that you're just talking to someone.
Yeah.
Conversation at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's, you two have come across really well in terms of you've made me feel at ease straight away and stuff like that. And I think that's a talent in itself. I really do. I think you get somebody at ease, then you can have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Make an hour and a half seem like 12 hours.
Yeah. We've had it with like Jennifer Batten, Michael Jackson's guitarist. So we had her on about 3 years ago now, and she was meant to be at a show, so she was like, "Oh, I can only give you so long." To the point where her phone started ringing because people were like, "Where are you?"
Yeah. You do lose track though sometimes. It's when you do stuff like this and you think, blimey, where has the time gone? Because we haven't spoken about Slash's guitar.
Shockingly,
about David Bowie's unseen photographs. We've not touched on any of that.
I know.
We're definitely going to have to do this again, aren't we?
We definitely
I'd really enjoy that. I mean, it's even if it's you could do an after auction special to see how my stuff didn't actually reach the prices that it did, why it didn't, and what's wrong with the market and stuff like that. But yeah,
don't know what a teapot. I couldn't get rid of it.
Good or bad, but yeah, no. Look, honestly, it's been really good talking to you guys.
Thank you, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been so much fun. Really, really enjoyed listening to the stories.
See you soon. Have a good evening.
Thank you too. Look after yourself, fella.
I really genuinely enjoyed it. Thank you.
Same. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. See you soon. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye, mate.